Okay, I just had a couple funny things I was gonna say. Like, my friends always laugh at me because I have these weird stories from all the weird stuff I've done in my life. I worked on death row in the prison. I was in prison for stealing a Molly Cyrus camera. Anyways, I worked on death row at the state penitentiary. About the most boring job I ever had in my life. They said, "Hey man, why don't you you go to a 9-week boot camp." I did it all because the girl I was with was pregnant, so I was like, I got to get a good job so I can have a life or whatever I'm supposed to do. And turned out the baby wasn't mine. Imagine that. And on top of that, the baby was blind. She even tried to blame that on me, and left while I was at work. My mom called me on death row, which I don't even think is like possible, but she did. But working on death row, and one night they said, "Hey Mark, go and fix all the masks, like the mask when you run off in the cell, like the riot shield helmet." They wanted me to put tinted visor stuff on there, so they couldn't see, when you're coming in the cell. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that." Word. So me and my buddy went and sat down for 3 hours putting these on all these helmets, and then all of a sudden he just starts rolling laughing at me. I'm like, "What? What's so funny? Why are you laughing?" He said, "Put one of these helmets on." What do you think happened? I put the damn helmet on. I was staring at myself. I put them all on backwards. So, needless to say, I didn't have time to take them off. I don't know what happened. I quit a couple days after that because my girlfriend cheated on me. So, hopefully they didn't get in some big riot and they were fighting themselves or whatever would happen. But there was another guy, Hughley. You can look him up. Big swastika between his eyes. Contact killer. Came in contact with anybody you even got close to. We used to shock each other with the riot shields, and that would maybe pop the doors every now and then on accident. That was a long time ago, so that don't happen anymore. And one day the door popped, and out of 24 cells, 24 people came out. Until one came out. Steven. A little white guy, swastika between his eyes. And I was like, "Oh snap, I gotta do something about this. Can't just get on the radio and be like, hey, there's just serial killers roaming around." So I just walked down there, went through the first Sally Port door, and then you have to go through 2 of them. Open the one, then the other one. That closed that one, and got to the next one. He saw me. All the other ones ran to their cells. He came right over to the door, and I walked in. He came up and put his arm around me, and I was like, "Damn, bro." I was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "You're going to get me in trouble." He said, "I'm not the one that opened the door." I said, "I'm not either." And we just kind of laughed. He said, "Dude, I don't ever get to come out and walk around." I was like, "Yeah, no kidding." I was like, "I don't ever get to get murdered either, but I'm not in here to do that." And luckily he likes me, and he knows I'm kind of a jokester. And he literally said that. He said, "Mark, if it was anybody other than you, literally anybody," he said that this would be your last day. I said, "I know, but I'm not worried about that because I'm cool as fuck and you're not going to hurt me." And he just laughed. But I would bring steak every night, or not every night, but every now and then. And whenever I was eating, I would come in there and I would sit at his cell and listen to him tell horrific stories. And I'd give him a little piece of my steak just to build a rapport. Hell, I was 22. I didn't really know I was more interested in what they were talking about and listening to their stories. And yeah. But that was the most depressing job I'd ever seen in my life. But him and Paul Reed used to get into a beef, or it was the other guy that was real big on the news, because every time they would come out of their cell by themselves and they were getting handcuffed and walked, one of them would go zzz, zzz, every time he walked by the cell. Pretty funny. But I couldn't laugh, of course. But that was one of my funny jail stories. And then the funny one I had to do, I got a little drunk, went down, met my dad in Florida. Dad who I wasn't raised with, never really hung around. Went on a fishing trip, never caught jack. And my mom ended up coming down with my sister the next day just because she just wanted a free vacation. So my dad ended up leaving. I was going to ride back with him. Well, I stayed in a different hotel room in the same hotel as my parents, or my grandma, and my sister. Well, I drank some E&J, which totally turned me inside out. I ended up meeting a homeless dude, and I guess we had some conversations. I woke up the next morning with 2 police kicking my bed. Under the blankets with me was a swordfish, like a stuffed swordfish. I was cuddling with it. A jar of marbles. All of them were still in the jar, like a big jar of marbles. A box set of knives, with all the knives perfectly in them. And a fax machine. Don't know what I was doing. Couldn't tell you if I thought about it long enough. I'm pretty sure I can make something up, but even the cops were like, "What were you doing with all this?" I was like, "I'm opening a fish office. Can I help you?" They wasn't going for it. Anyway, so I had to do 54 days in jail because of that in Daytona Beach. And one of the funniest things was every morning we had to come outside and we had to line up. And you could see the sky, but you couldn't see anything else. It was just 2 walls with the pods, and we'd all line up, 500 people out there. Well, they called me Tennessee because I'm from Tennessee and had a funny accent, I guess. Well, there was another guy way up at the front. You are not allowed to talk. I can't help myself sometimes. All the guards, captains, everybody's out there, 4:30 in the morning. Everybody just woke up real quiet. And I saw a dude, and he looked at me. I said, "J-Rod." He said, "What's up?" I said, "What pod are you in?" He said, "A pod." I said, "You know Barry?" He said, "Barry who?" I said, "Bury these nuts in your mouth." And at that exact moment, 500 inmates, 50-something officers, all the captains, they all just started rolling laughing. I broke all the rules in one. It was awesome. But the good old days. Prison pussy. Anyways, that was my story.